Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashtapraye Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistike. So continuing with the discussion on Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita by Srila Das Goswami, Volume 3, Only He Could Lead Them, San Francisco, India, 1967. Chapter 28, India Revisited, Part 2. So Prabhupada had gone to Vrindavan, to Mayapur, to visit his god brothers, and now further we study what he does. Srila Prabhupada had wanted to return to the US as a permanent resident, but his students in America hadn't been able to get the necessary clearance from the US Immigration Department. So permanent resident means with a green card. The devotees in Boston had gotten in touch with a few Harvard Indology professors, but had obtained no signed statements about Prabhupada's importance. All the ISKCON centers had written formal letters inviting A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami and had presented copies to the US Immigration Office. But unless the devotees could produce something more impressive, like a government recommendation or a university's offer for him to join the faculty, Prabhupada could not become a US resident. On October 13, Prabhupada wrote to his disciples in Montreal, I am very anxious to go to Montreal. Therefore, you must try your best to get my immigration visa on the basis of my being an authorized Vaishnava minister based on Srimad Bhagavatam and Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Rather than wait indefinitely for permanent residency, Prabhupada decided to apply for a visitor's visa. He went with Achyutananda to the US consulate on Harrington Road. There in the middle of Calcutta, they entered a small piece of America with everything shiny, new and efficient, air conditioners, stainless steel water coolers, electric security doors, US Marines and American flags. So when it is said they entered a small piece of America, because the embassy of America, no matter which city is there, it's still considered American soil or American building. So only US laws apply there, not Indian laws. And even in that time, it was what, 1960s, they had air conditioners also. Sitting before the secretary of the consulate, Prabhupada looked small and humble. I want a visa to my students in America, he said softly. Do you have any letters? The secretary asked. Achyutananda handed over the letters from the temples. The secretary reviewed them and quickly gave Prabhupada a 4-month visa. While leaving the building, Prabhupada remarked, I'll just get anything and then it can be extended. On October 19th, Prabhupada wrote Hagrid regarding his imminent return. I'm already preparing for return to USA and I have obtained a visitor's visa the day before yesterday. Most probably, I shall take the first chance to return to USA upon my return from Navadvip. And on October 22nd, he wrote Umapati, you will be glad to know that I have already secured a visitor's visa to your country and have asked my travel agent to book my seat on the earliest possible date. I think I shall be in your midst by the middle of November. On October 24th, Prabhupada traveled with Achyutananda and Ramanujan to Navadvip. Although the local train took 4 hours, the lush Bengal countryside gradually revealed its heavenly beauty, and Prabhupada's health seemed to improve just from the pleasant journey. By the time they arrived at Navadvip, Achyutananda and Ramanuja were also feeling relief from the rigors of Calcutta. For the first time in weeks, they could open their eyes without blinking through drops of perspiration. A large Kirtan party of brahmacharis, mostly members of Keshav Maharaj's Devanand Gaudiya Mutt, met Srila Prabhupada at the Navadvip train station. The brahmacharis were meticulously neat, with the robes all dyed the same shade of saffron. The Vaishnav tilak markings bold and distinct, their heads smoothly shaved, their shikhas precise. They offered Prabhupada and his party aromatic garlands made from flowers resembling lotuses and gathered around Srila Prabhupada with worshipful enthusiasm. Also present were a few of Sridhar Maharaj's disciples waiting with rickshaws to take Prabhupada and his disciples to their guru's ashram. Although between the two groups there was an unspoken competition for Prabhupada's presence, he had previously agreed to go to Sridhar Maharaj's place. He promised the members of Devanand Mutt that he would visit them next. Soon after leaving the station, the rickshaws turned onto a road lined with lush tropical vegetation, banana trees, tall bamboos, exotic blossoming flowers. Prabhupada saw simple villagers working near the straw and mud huts, and in the distance the spire of Sridhar Maharaj's temple. A kirtan party greeted Prabhupada at the outer gates of Sridhar Maharaj's ashram, chanting Hare Krishna and playing kartals and clay mridangams. Prabhupada entered the temple, offered obeisances before the deities of Radha and Krishna, and then went to see his godbrother. Sridhar Maharaj was very old, his sight failing, his joints stiff with arthritis. He stayed mostly in his room or sometimes on his veranda and moved only with slow, rickety motion. He was an austere and kindly Vaishnava and smiled heartily on seeing Prabhupada and his disciples. In fluent English, he began praising Prabhupada's preaching in America, repeatedly using Prabhupada's phrase, Krishna consciousness. Swamiji's work, he said, was the fulfillment of Lord Chaitanya's prophecy that Krishna consciousness would one day spread all over the world. He laughed and smiled and praised the Krishna consciousness movement with no trace of jealousy. So you appreciate this phrase, Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada smiled. Yes, Sridhar Maharaj replied. And the disciples of Swami Maharaj also. And he turned towards Achyutananda and Ramanuja with very little effort. Your preaching will go far. The boys were astonished. This was really something to write home about. Sitting on the roof of a temple in this jungle paradise with old Sridhar Maharaj, appreciating Swamiji's work as the greatest work on behalf of Lord Chaitanya. And Swamiji sitting relaxed, grinning and making humble replies. It was a high point of the trip. My dear Satsuru, please accept my blessings. I have already duly received the invitation from Harvard University. It is understood that they are scheduling me for 20th November between 6 and 10 p.m. I can start immediately on the strength of my visitor's visa. But I am awaiting for Mukunda's reply for his trying for my permanent visa. Yesterday we have all come to Navdvip. This place is another establishment of one of my godbrothers. It is very nice and extensive place, and my godbrother, B.R. Sridhar Maharaj, has spared one entire nice house for our stay. He has also agreed to cooperate with our society. We shall observe his birthday ceremony tomorrow, and the brahmacharis shall learn how to celebrate the spiritual master's birthday. So it's also teaching for Achyutananda and Ramanuja. Vyas Puja Day, the observance of B.R. Sridhar Maharaj's birthday was October 27th. His disciples had erected a pandal on the temple road, and about 100 people attended. Sridhar Maharaj sat on his Vyasasana, and Prabhupada and other sannyasis, all wearing flower garlands, sat in chairs next to Sridhar Maharaj. Prabhupada spoke in Bengali. Some of Sridhar Maharaj's disciples, inspired by Prabhupada's preaching about the glories of spreading Krishna consciousness in the West, delivered speeches in English as Vyas Puja homages to their spiritual master. Sridhar Maharaj, also speaking in English, gave a very scientific lecture on Krishna consciousness and the senses. Afterwards, Prabhupada told his disciples he has very high realizations, but he is keeping them to himself. Every morning before dawn, Sridhar Maharaj sent out a party of brahmacharis to perform kirtan in the villages. On Prabhupada's request, Achyutananda and Ramanuja joined them, leaving before sunrise and returning at dusk. Means whole day they would perform kirtan. Although Prabhupada and Sridhar Maharaj usually remained at the temple, one day they got onto a rickshaw and accompanied the chanting party through the streets of Navadvip. The festival at the Devanand Mutt was a big affair, in contrast to Bhakti Sarang Goswami's ashram in Calcutta, where only widows had attended. B.P. Keshav Maharaj's Devanand Mutt had about 200 brahmacharis and 20 sannyasis. Some of the brahmacharis, however, were not full-time but were attending school outside, so the ashram's atmosphere was a little like that of a social club. But when the kirtan and the circumambulation of the temple began, 700 people took part. The impeccably dressed sannyasis, whose every piece of saffron cloth, including the cloth-wrapped dandas, was dyed exactly the same shade, danced back and forth before the deities. A dozen sannyasis danced in a group, their dandas moving together, dipping and rising, forward and backward, to the delight of the brahmacharis. Prabhupada sat on a dais with other dignitaries and spoke to the festival audience. Achyutananda, on Prabhupada's request, spoke a few words in Bengali, bringing laughs and applause. Srila Maharaj spoke gravely in Bengali. A sannyasi from the Devanand Mutt spoke for their absent leader, B.P. Keshav Maharaj, proclaimed in impassioned tones that although Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement had been predicted to spread throughout the world, no one had known how could it be possible. Now, thanks to the work of Bhaktivedanta Swami, it was happening. After a large feast in the evening, Prabhupada's party returned to Sridhar Maharaj's ashram. Sridhar Maharaj intimated to Prabhupada that the Devanand Mutt emphasized quantity, whereas his own ashram emphasized quality. Curious as to what this meant, Achyutananda wanted to ask Prabhupada, but the time didn't seem appropriate. After 9 days in Navadvip, Prabhupada was ready to return to Calcutta and prepare for a trip back to the United States. He and his 2 disciples took rickshaws to Navadvip and caught a morning train to Calcutta. On the trains, Achyutananda timidly put forward the question that had been on his mind. Swamiji, what did you and Srila Maharaj discuss? Oh, many, many things, Prabhupada replied, but if I were to tell you now, you would faint. If I were to tell you now, you would faint. Means whenever we are ready, it will be revealed to us. After a silence, Prabhupada added, still I offered him to be president of our society. I knew he would not accept. He's keeping things within him. Anyway, this is all beyond you. Do not have any ill feelings towards any of my godbrothers. They're all great souls. There are just some differences on preaching and spreading. Even in your mind, do not feel any ill will towards them. At the same time, do not mix very thickly with them. Achyutananda suggested, maybe if these 2 sannyasis had each other's qualities combined. Ah yes, Prabhupada said, now you have understood me. Srila Prabhupada's intention in coming to Calcutta was simply to prepare to leave for America. He had his visitor's visa already, but he thought that if he stayed in India a little longer, in San Francisco, Mukunda might be able to secure permanent American residency for him. He went to his sister's house to spend his last days in Calcutta there. But after only a few days, he felt that the Radha Govinda deity, the deity he had worshipped in his childhood, was calling him. When Prabhupada had been no more than an infant, his servant used to take him and his cousin Subudhi Mulek on a perambulator, wheel them into the temple courtyard and take them before the altar of Radha Govinda. And as soon as Prabhupada could walk, his father would hold his hand and take him before the deity every day. Sometimes Prabhupada would go alone and stand for hours, gazing upon Radha and Krishna, who appeared very beautiful to him with their slanted eyes and fine dress and ornaments. It had been for the pleasure of Radha Govinda that as a child, beginning at the age of 5, he had performed his miniature Radha Rath Yatra festival. Just 2 weeks ago, when Prabhupada had been staying at his sister's house, his health had prevented him from going to North Calcutta to see the deity. So he had gone to Navadvip without taking their blessings. But now, although still weak and although preoccupied with traveling to the USA, he felt that the deity was calling him. For the past 150 years, the Radha Govinda temple had been maintained by the aristocratic Maliks, branch of Prabhupada's own family. The Maliks had owned the entire block on Harrison Road, now Mahatma Gandhi Road, and rents from the block-long building opposite the temple had financed the opulent worship of the Radha Govinda. In those days, the deities had been worshipped on a gorgeous altar in the large kirtan, and they had been dressed in silks and ornamented with gilded and bejeweled crowns and necklaces. All the pious Vaishnava families of the neighborhood would visit, and on Janmashtami, Krishna's birthday, even British gentlemen and ladies would come. But today, the Malik family possessed only remnants of the European art and furnishings that had once filled their homes and temple relics from an age of former grandeur. And the worship of Radha Govinda had pitifully deteriorated. Srila Prabhupada was pained to see the neglect. No longer were Radha and Govinda the center of Malik's lives. The deity worship still continued, conducted by paid Brahmins, but few people came to see. The main attraction now was a golden deity of the goddess Kali on the large altar in the Kirtan. Radha and Govinda in the family for many generations had been relegated to a small upstairs room in the Malik compound. Their dress was no longer elegant. Their valuable crowns and ornaments had disappeared, and there were no large kirtans as before. Only a paid Brahmin came in the morning to rub sandalwood pulp on their shining bodies, dress them carefully in whatever simple clothes remained, and place jasmine garlands around their necks, while a widow or two watched their silent proceedings. Krishna consciousness was dying in India, dying from neglect. At least it was dying here in Calcutta. And in many other places in India, even Vrindavan, the impersonal philosophy prevailed, and grand old temples had become residences for pigeons, monkeys, and dogs. Sad as it was, it only reinforced Prabhupada's conviction of the need to return to fertile ground in the West. Although here in India, the spirit of devotion was dying, in the West, it was just beginning to grow in New York, San Francisco, Montreal, Boston. If pure Krishna consciousness were dying in India, then why shouldn't it be transplanted in the fertile West, where it would flourish, it would spread worldwide and even back to India again? When India bent on following the West saw the materially advanced Americans taking to Krishna consciousness, she would reevaluate her own culture. And it really happened like that. Well, later in 70s, Prabhupada brought, because by that time he had many American and European disciples, when he brought them to India, and at different places they would go on for kirtan, Indians really got attracted by that. Prabhupada saw a Krishna conscious revolution beginning in the United States. He didn't consider himself its creator. He was a servant of Krishna consciousness. Lord Chaitanya's desire was that every Indian help to spread Krishna consciousness worldwide. Unfortunately, the very verses in the scriptures that prophesy the worldwide Krishna consciousness movement were a puzzle even to the most of Srila Prabhupada's God brothers. They admitted it. Because it is mentioned in the scriptures that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's name will be sung every town and village all over the world. But nobody could figure it out. How is it going to happen? Who would do it? But now they were realizing it was Srila Prabhupada who was doing it. But soon they would see there was great potential in the West. Prabhupada had shown many of his God brothers the newspaper articles, Swami's flock chanting in Tompkins Square Park, ancient trance dance at Stanford University. And he had brought some disciples with him. These were only beginnings. Much more had to be done. And who would help? B.P. Keshav Maharaj was dying. Shiva Maharaj couldn't come out. Who else? Most Indians were impersonalists, non-devotional yogis or demigod worshippers. As Srila Prabhupada stood before the Radha Govinda deity, explaining to Achyutananda and Ramanuja how he had worshipped them in his childhood and how they had been his first inspiration to Krishna consciousness. He understood deeply that he must take Krishna consciousness all over the world, even if single-handedly. Of course, he was not alone. He had disciples, and they were opening new centers even in his absence. He would have to return to them very soon and supervise his growing movement. The Maliks regarded Prabhupada more as a relative than as a spiritual leader. To them, he was a hometown cousin who had done something successful in America. Narendranath Malik, a childhood friend of Prabhupada's, called Prabhupada Dada, brother, and regularly joked with him. The Maliks were glad to give Prabhupada and his two followers a large room in the temple compound for as long as they wanted to stay in Calcutta. Prabhupada set up his usual arrangement, a mat on the floor, a low table for a desk, and beside the desk his few possessions. Here he could study and write, receive guests or rest. Daily some local women brought Prabhupada and his disciples simple prasadam in a tiffin. The Kali Puja celebration drew large crowds into the main hall before the Kali deity. And Prabhupada gave regular lectures there from Srimad Bhagavatam. He also spoke in the homes of various Malik families. The host, member of the dwindling Bengali aristocracy, and would offer Prabhupada and his disciples Radha Govinda Prasadam, cut fruits, water chestnuts, minced ginger, and soaked salted mung beans. Most of those who came to visit Prabhupada in his room were not really interested in spiritual life, but they wanted his blessings. Blessings for what? To make more money, to have a comfortable material life. Actually, that's what we all think, that this is the blessing. But that's not really the blessing. Because that's what prolongs our stay in the material world. Because more material comforts we get, more we get attached to it, means more entangled we will get. So how is that a blessing? There was a local Brahmin whose occupation was to go from shop to shop carrying a few flowers, a cup of water, and a brass container with sandalwood paste and kumkum powder. Using this paraphernalia, he would offer a blessing to the shopkeepers every day and receive a few paisa in payment. Knowing Prabhupada to be Vaishnava, the Brahmin came to see him to receive a spiritual benediction. The man's forehead was decorated with both Vaishnava Tilak, 2 vertical lines, and Shaivite Tilak, 3 horizontal lines. After the man left, Achyutananda asked, Swamiji, who was that? He is a hired Brahmin, Prabhupada said. When he goes to the Vaishnavas, he gives them blessings. And if he goes to Shaivites, he gets money. He has to make a living. Another man came asserting that he wanted to teach Prabhupada's disciples Hindi. He asked Prabhupada to help him get to America. But Prabhupada told him, you must take sannyas, then I'll bring you to America. After 2 visits, the man stopped coming. So obviously his intention was to bring his family to America and just settle there. But that's not what Prabhupada wanted. A Malik relation, a small, bald, bright-eyed man, came by one day carrying a book entitled Interesting Studies. He posed philosophical questions, simple queries about karma, jnana, and bhakti, but then would interrupt Prabhupada and answer them himself. Finally, when the man asked one of his questions, Prabhupada replied, so what's your answer? The man gave a general answer, but later when Prabhupada began explaining that Lord Krishna, the speaker of Bhagavad Gita, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, man interrupted. You may call God Krishna, call him Shiva, call him this. No, Prabhupada said, Krishna is the Supreme Lord and all others are demigods. The man became a little nervous and quoted a popular Bengali impersonalist who taught that all gods and all methods of worship are the same. He's an upstart, Prabhupada said. This is not the teaching of Gita. What is this other teaching? It's all utter confusion. If you go on speaking like that, The man said angrily, I will have to leave this place. Please don't criticize this Paramhansa. Why not, Prabhupada said. He's a concoctor. The man got up and left, calling out, you don't know Krishna, as he left the room. Prabhupada turned to Achyutananda and Ramanuja and smilingly said, every time you introduce Krishna, they say, why only Krishna? But that is what Krishna says, Mattah Paratram Nanyat. There is no truth superior to me. These rascal impersonalists have ruined Bengal. And not just Bengal, it's everywhere. It's the same story. Why only Krishna? One day a man gave Prabhupada a 200 rupee donation, and Prabhupada immediately asked the pujari for an old set of Radha Govinda's clothes, gave the clothes to some of the temple ladies along with the 200 rupees, and asked that the ladies make gold embroidered dresses for Radha Govinda. Radha Govinda are taking care of us, he said, so we can take care of them also. Ramanuja's beard was huge, looking like an ordinary hippie. He misrepresented Srila Prabhupada wherever they went. Prabhupada told Achyutananda, tell your friend to shave. Achyutananda and Ramanuja talked, but Ramanuja would not shave. Wanting Ramanuja to agree on his own, Prabhupada didn't ask him again. But when a copy of the latest Back to Godhead magazine arrived from the States, Prabhupada got an idea. Two illustrations in the magazine showed Haridas Thakur converting a prostitute. After her conversion, the prostitute had shaved her head. Showing the pictures to Ramanuja, Prabhupada asked, what's the difference between this picture and that picture? I don't know, Swamiji, Ramanuja replied. No, Prabhupada said, pointing to the pictures. What's the difference in this picture? Oh, she's a devotee. Yes, Prabhupada said. But what else? Oh, she has a shaved head. Yes, Prabhupada smiled. A devotee has a shaved head. Do you want me to shave my head? Yes, Ramanuja shaved. But within a few days, he began growing his beard and hair back. From now on, Prabhupada told Achyutananda, no more cheap initiations. They have to know something. Ramanuja hung on. Prabhupada wanted Ramanuja and Achyutananda to remain in India after his departure and continue to try for the American house in Vrindavan. Ramanuja wrote his own impressions to his friend Mukunda in San Francisco. Please be advised that we are doing all we can to get him off as soon as possible, but this primitive Indian government is putting obstacles in our way. The man who could have given Swamiji clearance for his P form has just drowned. So the clearance has to be made in Bombay. This is the delay. Here in Calcutta, we are having lots of fun addressing different people. Swamiji makes Achyutananda and myself give a short speech. I'm becoming more and more expert at this. I think that he makes us speak in order to show the audience that we American Vaishnavas are for real. And also he wants everyone to preach Krishna consciousness. It's very difficult to take care properly of Swamiji's health here. For one thing, it's a big thing to serve sweets in India, and it is impolite to decline. Also, we get all kinds of visitors. We have not been able to go to bed before 11 o'clock. And Swamiji automatically wakes at 3. In this respect, the people here were very inconsiderate. But if Achyutananda and I ask them to leave, they'll ask Swamiji if they should, and Swamiji, of course, says no. Anyway, his heartbeat is a little fast, and sometimes it's alarmingly fast. So he suggests that you get a good heart specialist to see him. Please arrange for this doctor, and above all, make sure that Swamiji gets plenty of rest. You need not restrict visitors too strictly, because if the company is good, Swamiji seems to enjoy visitors. Please do all you can to get Swamiji's beat to normal again. His chariot needs to be fixed up so that he can remain on this earth for at least another 10 years. So, wonderful time they are having, but they want to take care of Prabhupada's health properly. They say they haven't been able to. Because this is what Prabhupada wanted. Preach, 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 preach. Okay, I guess we can stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments?
Nice class, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Mata.
Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada.